And your topic, we could have gone more in depth in that, but we had actually talked about that like 2 weeks ago during the news. Phil Billy brought that to my attention before IGN ever did a story on it. I don't know if you remember that. And I pointed out that it was like it all came from a tweet from a developer.
Yeah.
And then Obsidian, which is actually a developing company that I like, actually retweeted it and said this is all true or something like that.
Yeah, a
bunch of other ones piled on.
Yeah, I didn't end up getting to the odds on that show, which is probably why I didn't know that you guys already talked about it.
No, with you. I talked about it with you 2 weeks ago.
Wait, you did?
Yes. It was you I talked to.
The fuck?
It was the show before last. It was you.
Man. Just goes to show you.
It was episode 200, actually, I think. Yeah, because we got a comment on it last week.
Just goes to show you how much I pay attention sometimes.
It really makes me feel like I've got a support system right now. Definitely doesn't feel like I'm alone against the fucking elements right now.
I'm definitely here most of the time.
Yeah, you don't know what you're saying or what you've said or what the show's about.
I'd like to think of it more as me just being so impassioned that my heart speaks before my mind, and I just don't register what it is that I say.
Yeah, sure. That's what it is.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming. With me, we're just going to take it from the top.
Sure. No, leave this in. Just do it like this. Just start over.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming. You, dear listener, have chosen
Neil, a.k.a. Tiny Wizard.
Yep. From the top. Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming.
I'm not going to let you. You can't.
We did this bit already on a Halo Infinite War. We can't do it on a podcast, too.
Wait, we did?
Yes, we 100% did.
Jesus Christ.
And I hate to say it, but we ripped it off Game Grumps, who did it in a Sonic Boom episode 7 years ago.
Oh, God.
So, for real, hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming. You, dear listener, have chosen whatever reason to listen to another horrible gaming podcast, indicative of what you just heard. But I am not alone, nor am I usually not alone. With me is...
Neil, a.k.a. Tiny Wizard.
What are we going to talk about today? Well, the news is a little bit weak, so we picked a fun topic again. A little fun topic to do.
A little fun. Just a little
fun.
treat. Little treat.
Little fun. Little funsy. So we're going to do that. We're going to have a little fun with that. Obviously, we're going to read your fan interaction. We had a ton of fan interaction that I haven't even read at all yet. I just haven't gotten around to looking at it, so going to discover that with you. And yeah.
Let's go on an adventure together.
Yeah, let's go on an adventure. Let's read comments blindly. Good idea for an internet show. All right, but before we do that, we have to thank the people who made this possible. First of all, behind our ugly mugs, you're seeing a fancy custom graphic. That custom graphic was designed by Mr. Mark Bell. We thank him for that. And then, of course, the theme song for this show and most of the shows here on Old Man Gaming is provided by the man who makes music, my brother Nick Van Siders. We thank him for that. Stealth plug, check out his newest music video, the video part I did, Cyberfunk. It's a lot of fun. I'm very proud of it. And really quickly, I do want to just address the elephant in the room. Neil doesn't know about the elephant in the room because he can't actually see me with the way we record, but I have glasses now.
You talked about the glasses, though.
I didn't talk about the glasses on the podcast, man. You are killing me today.
I know about it.
You are absolutely killing me today.
I know about the glasses.
Yeah, I'm wearing glasses now. I have stigmatisms in my eyes. It has been quite an ordeal the last 2 weeks, but I now wear glasses. So everybody get used to it. You're going to see that very obnoxious reflection in the lights because of the way that I look at the screen. So just deal. Just deal. All right. We will be right back with Fan Traction.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
That brings us to our first segment, our most important segment. That's Fan Traction, ladies and gentlemen. We, the co-hosts, we can offer you guys one thing in our crap quality podcast, and that's communication, because there's not a lot of you watching us or commenting. So we read your comments that you put on YouTube and in other places that we remember to, and we talk to you guys. We refer to you. We riff on your comments. We discuss them. So let's get into it. Right off the bat, we got Jason. Kai Cenat made ripples through the mainstream political sphere. That's how insane that incident was. What incident?
That odd news story that I had. The guy who basically shut down
oh, that's
part
right.
of New York
Okay.
with
All right.
giving away.
My brain failed me on that one.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
It was absolutely crazy, and a little bit of clarification on that news story, actually,
Sure.
because
Bring it on.
like more real news outlets started covering what had happened. So the crowd basically started getting rowdy because it was becoming clear that they weren't getting the shit that they thought they were going to get. So it went from just a gathering of people waiting around to get stuff to a full-on brawl. But the second that they realized they weren't getting shit, they just kind of dispersed. But the brawl kind of spread from the spot effectively.
I see. Then we've got Asylum 66. Tiny Wizard no longer has to be afraid of the boogeyman under his bed. Congratulations.
Yes. It was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. We got the new bed with the light and everything under it. I've since taped over the motion sensors for the lights because there's no way to permanently disable the light. So any motion sets it off. So my bed would look like a mothership in the middle of the night. So that's already covered up.
So that salesman got you.
For that one. And then they did not deliver the mattress cover that we had purchased to not have to pay for our delivery fee. They did not give us.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, that turned into a separate thing. Fortunately, they resolved it pretty quickly.
Well, that's good.
The dudes that installed the bed made it very clear that they were ahead of schedule and they had one more stop to go. And then they were done for the day. So they were flying through everything. And it was a good thing I paid attention because they cross-threaded one of the legs on the bed and didn't attach properly two more of them. So I had to go back through after the fact. And they were like, "Oh, is everything good? Is everything great?" I'm like, "Sure, just take the old mattress, man." And then it was 20 minutes later that we realized we didn't have the mattress cover.
You have the worst luck with delivery people. I've never had one bad delivery person. I've had bad deliveries, mix-ups and stuff, but I've never had shitty delivery people. You always have shitty delivery people, I swear.
That one time too that you were helping me move and the whole fridge thing went down was probably the worst of them.
Yeah,
and
that
I
was
got
bad.
so, oh my god, I was pissed.
You should have gotten mad.
So pissed.
And it's ridiculous. All right, next up, Philbilly. I found out the reason they didn't let you preload BG3 was because something to do with Steam. It would have messed up people's early access saves, and they didn't want to do that because some people played early access on PC but ordered their final copy for console. And since PS5 and Xbox versions aren't available yet, they didn't want to mess up those people's early access saves. Well, that makes a little bit of sense.
That's fair.
That makes a little bit of sense. It definitely caused a rough situation for them, I feel like. But
I feel like though they did it for the right reasons. It would have been cool had they communicated that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think
maybe
that
just been like, "Hey guys." But
I think all the way around, Larian has. I mean, I've said this about other studios, and then they eventually prove me wrong. But Larian has been really stand up as far as everything that's gone down with BG3. Honestly, I think they have handled BG3 incredibly well. They are, I think, right now because of the buzz, Game of the Year contender at this point. Depending on how good or bad Starfield is, I think that your two front runners are Tears of the Kingdom and a BG3. Honestly, for the mainstream stuff, not necessarily for ours, but for the mainstream stuff, I think honestly, just given the buzz, I think BG3 is way up there. If we don't see BG3 in the nominations of Keighley's Fuckfest, then Keighley's Fuckfest, in my opinion, is like, I mean, it's dead now, but like really, like that's the coffin shutting in my opinion.
I was gonna say, don't say corrupt because
no, dead.
It's
useless.
It's actually funny you mention that because the one thing that I had that I didn't put on my news, just because I didn't know if it was like newsworthy enough, but because we're kind of touching base on it. Mm-hmm. IGN actually did a thing the other day. I believe it was IGN that Baldur's Gate 3 is technically the highest rated game of the year at the time of writing that article. Yep. Beat out Tears of the Kingdom by 1 point.
Wow, 1 point. That's awesome. I think it's awesome. I think it is such a good game that you have, we already talked about it 2 weeks ago, but such a good game that we have AAA companies actually like saying our games aren't going to be that good. Don't expect that. Which is
pathetic.
Pathetic. I'm going to say it right now. AAA game companies are dead. Like, or dying. Those are the two forms of AAA game company right now. I mean, just look at this year. Just look at this year. The only one that's managed to pull off anything was Avalanche and Hogwarts Legacy. I mean, and Nintendo, I guess, but like I don't really count Nintendo in the AAA game debacle. They're their own kind of beast. But like, no other AAA games have really pulled off successful games. Diablo 4, but everybody hates it. So like,
that's the thing is there's successful and there's like being placed upon a pedestal.
Yeah.
Because this year has been excellent for games, but there's been very few that have been hoisted to a pedestal level of like, that.
Well, the thing is very few of those good games have been AAA studio games, is the thing. Like AAA studio, like legit AAA studio games, there really hasn't been that many that have come out. Like name one other than Hogwarts Legacy, and nothing by Nintendo because Nintendo's doing fine.
Well, that's the thing is you have like Street Fighter 6, which is a very popular, highly rated game.
Okay, it is. But however, it's covered, like drenched in corrupt bullshit. Same with Diablo 4. Yes. I'm talking about a game that is good and not just getting the people playing it, but I mean universally respected and good. There's really not.
Yeah, and that's where I would kind of differentiate between like it's like, oh yes, this is an excellent game, but there's that pedestal level of like that there is like a shining example of a good game. Like,
I agree with that.
That's the distinction between.
But see, for me, and we may differ on this, for me, Street Fighter 6 being a good game doesn't make it a good game. Like just a good core game because of all the bullshit around it.
Right.
For me, even though the core game, if you're just playing the game, is fun and good, you have to add in all those microtransactions, all those secondary like cuts, all that DLC bullshit that they've pulled. You know, same with Diablo 4. Like, base on its front. And I've heard from my friend, I haven't played it, so I can't really say whether it's good or not in play. But like, you have to add in the fact that they nerfed a bunch of shit. They had a ton of bugs. They fucked a ton of shit up. Whereas you then look at these AA studios, they haven't, you know? And the other thing is, okay, Wild Hearts, you can say, And Wild Hearts did by no means had an unhurt launch. I'm not going to put that on a pedestal. It was really buggy in the start. You can see that in my review. I didn't go away from it. But that's still a AA studio. It's being published by fucking EA, you know? So, like, I think that, like, the really good games, the standout accomplishments from this year are all AA games. Are all AA studios, you know, rising to the level, you know?
Yeah, what I've always considered when it comes to that sort of stuff with games has always been like, you know, just assume you give a game a personal, like, I like to think of it as an out of 10 whenever I personally rate something, because it makes it like something that you could, you know, hold, you can weigh, you can measure, to put the thoughts into a measurable quantity. But anytime I look at a game like that and it has all that horse shit of, you know, the loot boxes and the microtransactions and all this other shenanigans and dumb like launch plans and everything like that, no matter what, it can be a 10 out of 10 game. But like in my mind, I always take one off of that because that stuff does hold it back to some degree.
Yeah, it's fair. I've said a million times I don't like to give scores to video games just because it's so eye of the beholder. But like, it definitely, I agree. It takes away that weight. It takes away that juice for me. And I still think 2023 is awesome because you still throw those games in and they're still solid experiences. But at the same time, you know what I mean? If you're just talking about the game to game to game and what the best games have been, they certainly haven't been the AAA ones. You know what I mean? The AAA ones this year have been better than, say, 2022. But if you compare the AAA experiences on a whole to the AA experiences, I don't even think they hold a candle. You know what I mean? So, like, that's kind of the tricky area. So to continue, Jason comments again. Behavior likes to screw with data miners, Behavior Games. They added a teacher class with some perks in the files that was never actually released. I'm guessing for Dead by Daylight. Just earlier this year, they put Just earlier this year, they put in generic versions of the cannibal in the code, which is what they did when they lost Stranger Things, just so data miners thought they were losing Texas Chainsaw Massacre license. That is funny. Continuing, Philbilly. Larian just turned down Microsoft trying to purchase them. Sven is staying strong in his stance as staying independent. Sven being the guy who runs Larian. That's the sound of me slow clapping right there. Any studio out there, and I'm going to tell you right now, every studio, aside from all the FTC stuff, aside from all of it, any AA studio that Microsoft walks to the door of and knocks on should really look at the track record of AA studios that have been purchased by Microsoft and what their games are post-Microsoft release and what their games are prior to Microsoft's purchase, you know?
Yeah.
And I gotta say, if... and this is no shot to Sven whatsoever, because I don't know the dude. He may have stayed strong in this situation too. But if they had been approached 2 years ago by Microsoft, it might have been a different story. I think maybe Microsoft is starting to poison the well themselves to more purchases just because the games that are being released post a Microsoft buyout are terrible. So I think that you can look at that as a AA studio and go, well, that's indicative of Microsoft. Like, if Obsidian was working fine before Microsoft bought them, now they're releasing crap. We have to take a step back and say, what's the difference? What changed here? It's Microsoft. So I don't want to be micromanaged. You know what I mean? And honestly, Sven, with Larian, you're doing just fine without Microsoft. Just fine without Microsoft.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there with that. It's definitely everything that's gone on with purchases. Even, yeah, like you said, not even the Activision Blizzard thing.
Yeah.
When they went on their initial buying spree, and what was that, 18, 19, something like that, where they bought all those studios up, like, I think at that point, people were starting to be a little wary about everything. So from there, it definitely made things a whole heck of a lot worse as time's gone on with everything that's happened with Bethesda, with the whole Activision Blizzard thing. I'm wondering if there's going to be a lot of people second guessing their partnerships with, or at least not partnerships, but more so like being acquired by Microsoft.
Especially if Starfield doesn't do good. Especially if Starfield bombs or is a buggy mess, then I think not necessarily, like, Microsoft won't be in trouble from like sales or anything or what they own, but they will be in trouble from a standpoint that they will ruin their chance to do basically what their plan is, which came out in the FTC trial, which is buy up all the companies. Nobody's going to want to sell to them. Nobody's going to want to work for Microsoft if another game comes out that's just a fucking nightmare, because you're going to look at these games and be like, all right, Microsoft's doing something here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
All right, continuing. William Hohen, hi! Exclamation point on Neil's new bed. Tell me you're 65 years old without telling me you're 65. Laughy face.
Oh, I gotta say though, it is super comfy. The only thing that I have yet to get used to is because it's so firm. When I lay on my side, my one arm falls asleep.
Oh, I hate that.
Still getting used to that.
I get that. I think. I think we as a collective didn't understand too well what AAA means. AAA never meant that it was a good game. It just means a lot of money went into making it. Pfft. Switch 2 in 2024. I can get only one today. My son has a Switch, so if I buy one for myself, I'll have a Switch too. Speaking of lost source code, Team Ninja...
You're just going to cruise by that one?
Oh, we'll come back to it. Speaking of the source code, Team Ninja confessed that they lost the source code of Ninja Gaiden Black. Yeah, I know. That's fucked up. Thanks for the show. Hashtag #underbedlights. Yeah, I think that's very funny. Switch 2. I'll have one for myself, so I have a Switch 2. I like that. I like the little pun. I agree. AAA no longer means the quality of the game. It means the amount of money that they've spent on it, and the amount of money they want to make on it, and that's what's ridiculous. AAA, for me anyway, at this point in my gaming lifespan, AAA is a negative to me. A game has to work out of a hole if the only thing I know about it is it's AAA. Because the minute I hear the words AAA, I think to myself, okay, they spent too much money on this, and they need to recoup that money, and they're going to try and take it out of my wallet every chance they get. So right off the bat, it's a negative. Right off the bat. That's how I'm looking at them now. Especially after possibly one of my favorite games of all time, Remnant 2. I love that game. I absolutely worship that game. AA. I mean, like, I'm not going to list the games here, but like right now, at this point, when I hear the words AAA, I immediately think microtransactions, DLC, cut DLC, pre-order bonuses, pre-order tier levels, like early access, bugs. That's the first thing I think when you say AAA to me. I don't think quality game anymore, you know?
Right. That's exactly what it is. AAA used to be like quality. Like that's what it was. It was AAA quality. But anymore, we're just kind of getting what we get. And as trash as it is, and as much as I know that I'm part of the problem, you know, the only reason we still keep getting this stuff is because no matter how bad it is, people still buy it and still flock to it one way or another.
I think, though, that's going to start to dwindle. And
for sure.
And that's the thing. I think it's already started to dwindle, you know? I think that, like, even with you point out all the time you're part of the problem, which I don't necessarily agree with, even when I'm most mad at you. I think that the problem is these people, they know how to make people buy stuff, you know? I mean, even me, I sit here and I go, ooh, I kind of want that. You know what I mean? Like, and I have to fight my urge. These people, they have research, like they've figured out how to turn a key in your brain to make you go, I want that. And that's what they do. And like, it's not necessarily fair to blame the victims on that one. But that being said, you can only abuse a victim so many times before they stop being a victim. I think even you has started to be more restrained with some of your purchases. You definitely taken more time to buy things, waited for reviews, definitely not run out. Like, Neil from when we started this podcast would have pre-ordered Street Fighter 6 the minute you fucking heard about it. You know what I mean? So, like, we're already seeing that. You know what I mean? And if you are the example of the average game player, you're seeing that. You're seeing that more and more. You're seeing more things. Hell, you're seeing it with the reception of Starfield stuff. People are more skeptical of Starfield. They're more skeptical of Starfield than they would have been 3 years ago. You know what I mean? So we're getting to that point where the AAA companies are just abusing to the point where they're going to start not getting sales, All right, continuing. Jason, The Backrooms is a creepypasta. I didn't know they made games about it. Not that I'm surprised, since it's quite the phenomenon. I've never heard of it. The only place I've ever heard of The Backrooms is Remnant 2 and this indie video game that I watched the Game Grumps play. That's the only time I've ever heard of The Backrooms. So, Jason, as a professor, what the fuck is the phenomenon of The Backrooms? Educate me. Unless Neil knows what it is. Do you know what it is, Neil?
No, I felt like I think we kind of mentioned about it a little bit last week. I think it was like this like tons of urban legendy sort of.
Well, that's creepypasta, which he explained to me, but I don't know what the Backrooms specific section of that is.
I think that is like this, like, it's presented as like this organization where all of those things are kept.
Oh.
I think, if it's what I'm thinking. If not, then I have no freaking clue.
Well, like I said, Jason, you like to be a professor. You like to explain things, man. What's the Backrooms phenomenon? Educate us. Phil Billy, laugh my ass off. Neil justifies buying a bed the same as he did his PS5 and Series X purchase in the beginning. Then he didn't play them because there were no games for them in the beginning. That is what's called a good salesman, when you walk away feeling that you've made a decision.
I'll tell you, that's true. Yeah, I mean, at least the bed I get to use every single night, no matter what. Though, honestly, with how wild these beds are getting anymore, I wouldn't be surprised if 5 years from now the beds have DLC. I mean, honestly, this thing has you
gotta pre-order the bed.
Positions, so I mean.
Continuing, Jason says WandaVision was the absolute best entry into the MCU. I don't agree with that, and I never even saw WandaVision. Sorry.
I mean, it was back when in the previous phases. I don't want to get too into it because I will spew about Marvel for hours.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that. And Jason hates it when anybody disagrees with him about anything. So we don't want to get into that.
Here's the very condensed version of it. I think Loki was the better of the shows, followed by Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Are we just talking? He didn't say. He said the best entry into the MCU. I wouldn't consider any of the TV shows an entry into the MCU. A good entry into the MCU.
Are. They 100% are. They're very loose.
I wouldn't consider them good compared to a lot of the original movies. I wouldn't consider them.
Well, that's
good.
Because they made the god-awful decision in the beginning to say, well, the shows aren't going to be required reading. They're just going to be supplemental.
Right.
But they're supplemental in that they're now, at this point, with the end of Secret Invasion, creating problems for themselves.
Yeah. I watched an Honest trailer on that because you were talking about it. I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was woof.
Phil Billy, hot take. I think Starfield coming to Games Pass is indicative that it will be a trash fire, and they can hide behind it being quotations free on Game Pass. It will be playable. It will be a playable beta that they can fade into obscurity, and people will defend it as they always do. And it may be a decent game 2 years from now, and then mouth breathers will say, "See, it's a good game." Well, I've said it multiple times with Starfield. You're one of two people. You're either the person who buys it at launch, gets really mad at it and hates it, or you're the person who plays it 2 years in and goes, "This is good. Why did anybody hate it?" And then you have to listen to the second one. That's how it was with Cyberpunk. I don't know that I had this conversation with him. I appreciate his opinion on this. I don't necessarily think it comes from a place of, like, I see his point. I definitely see his point. Basically saying that, like, Game Pass ends up being a shield for these first party studios, where, like, they're already in there, you're already on Games Pass. It's already a value because you've got all those other games on it. So, like, you're not going to get rid of Game Pass, and they can just say, well, you can play it for free, so why are you bitching? I don't necessarily... I think that's a very logical argument. I personally don't think that every game coming... Well, I mean, I don't think every game coming to Game Pass is going to be a trash fire. There have been some successful ones that have come to Game Pass. I will give him the props, though. I haven't really seen a whole lot of Microsoft first-party games come to Game Pass that have been truly good. Like, there have been games that have launched in Game Pass that have been good, that have been really good. Exoprimal just recently was very successful, and I played it. I hated the story, but it was a very fun game. It was very good. I think that, like, you do... I mean, unless you're counting State of Decay, but, again, State of Decay 2 was basically almost done when they got purchased, so... You know, same with Outer Worlds.
If your main defense of a game turns into, well, at least you didn't pay full price for it, unless you're picking it up used from a GameStop, it's not a defense.
No, I agree, but I see what he's saying, that they're kind of using it for this, and
oh yeah,
I don't
for sure.
necessarily disagree with that. Personally, I still love Game Pass because there are a ton of games on it that have nothing to do with Microsoft that are very good, that I can play anytime. No Man's Sky, State of Decay 2. They just launched Airborne Kingdom into there, which is a lot of fun. It's like a weird city builder that I enjoy. There's tons of really good games in there that necessarily don't have anything to do with Microsoft. But I see what he's saying. I don't think he's necessarily making a bad point that they can hide behind this. I don't think they can really hide behind it on Starfield, though. I think they could pull that off with Redfield, but I think Starfield being a trash fire will be rough for them. And I could be wrong. They could sweep it under the rug. I'll take my licks if I am.
That's the thing is, we here and other like outlets and stuff have made very many conversations about the fact that if Starfield is not good, Microsoft is in a really bad way.
Okay, I will say this.
It would be burning the last bit of good faith that people still have remaining.
Yeah.
At this point, like, there's already the stigma that Microsoft doesn't have anything first party.
Right.
That's literally it. And now the one thing that's the big Microsoft thing that we have left that we know about that's in the works, if that comes out and isn't like the best thing ever, or even like the most okayest thing ever, like if it goes below a 7, they're gonna be having bad times. And truthfully, it's pathetic enough that 7 is the water.
I think they will. I think they'll have a hard time publicly. I don't think they'll have a hard time financially because unfortunately the business just isn't worked that way. I think they're going to make plenty of money on Starfield. Hell, I think they've made all the money they need to make on Starfield already in pre-orders. But I think that, like, what it will really hurt long term is the viability of them purchasing more companies, which is their goal. Their overall goal is to buy out the companies so that basically buy Sony out of business. I mean, that came out during the FTC trial. There's literally an email from one person to another saying, this is what we're going to do.
This is our process.
This is our process. So, like, I think it will hurt that overall. I really do. Because I think, especially now, I think it's actually aided by Larian having such a good game this year. Because I think right now, I think every AA developer out there is like, hey, maybe we can contend with AAA, and we don't have to like have our heads turned at the amount of money that Microsoft offers in the first place. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that like that is something to look at. That is where they're really going to take the pain, if they take any pain from Starfield. Yeah, I mean that's my thought process anyway. I don't think anybody's going to stop. The problem is they have this service that really insulates them. It does insulate them. Completely aside from what Phil is saying that it's insulating them from. It insulates them cost-wise because so many people are on Game Pass. That like, and it's really the only service that really does that well. You know what I mean? So like, nobody's going to quit using Game Pass because Starfield sucks. You know what I mean? So like, I think they have that monetary insulation, that shield. That being said, I think if anything gets hurt, it's going to be their viability to continue to purchase companies.
Yeah, their viability to purchase companies in that it's going to matter. They'll have the cash to buy companies, but I mean, nobody's going to give a shit.
No.
If all they know that's going to happen is the company is going to get bought to be, shut down or trashed,
Yeah, and one of my odds and ends is about some weird shit going on with Microsoft and Avowed, but we'll get to that. All right, we got to get through this fan interaction. We're very chatty about it. Jason, you are almost to the final fight of Redfall, of the first map. Oh, God, there's a whole nother fucking map.
I heard about that.
I went to the next island, secured the main base, did one side mission, and never went back. Good for you, Jason. Good for you. I committed to a show, and that was my mistake. Jason, again, Starfield is an urban legend. And then Jason goes, my best friend has stacks of Switch games. Laughy face. Most games, I'm not personally interested, though we did play Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. Well, that might be fun. There are some Switch games I like. It's just, on a whole, if it's a third-party game, I would rather just play it on my computer. You know? Like, that's the problem. Like, at the end of the day, if it's a game that I really want to get into, I don't want to play it on my Switch. I want to play it on the computer. Which only leaves Nintendo first-party stuff, and I don't really dig a lot of the Nintendo first-party stuff. I think it's very kid-oriented, you know? I just do. Other than Zelda, and everybody knows my problems with Zelda right now. We don't have to rehash it. So, like, I think that, like, that's my biggest problem with Switch, why I don't think I'm going to have my head turned for a Switch 2. Because even though they do have that third-party support, like, unless you're a really portable person, but I'm kind of a homebody. I don't leave my house that much. So, like, plus, I may have been old and not know this, but you can play Steam games on your fucking phone now. Just from an internet connection. Like, so why do I need a Switch? Why do I even need a Steam Deck at this point? Like,
it just reminded me, I still haven't sent that out to you.
Oh, that's fine, man. I didn't expect you to send it. Jesus. So I don't know. The Switch isn't doing it for me right now. I think one of my friends hates me because he wanted to be my friend, and he sent a friend request. I was like, as soon as I'm on Switch, I'll accept it. I haven't been on Switch in like 3 fucking weeks. So like, I only really play it when I'm playing with Melissa, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing, is Nintendo's never been the spot for third-party stuff. And I think I've referenced this before, that there's been tons of like different like surveys and stuff that people who have a Nintendo Switch have a secondary primary console, be it either the PS5 or the Series X or the PC. The third-party stuff has never been great for Nintendo. Nintendo thrives on their first party. They know that. We know that. If you're not into the first-party stuff, it's not going to move the Switch for you one way or another.
Well,
especially now that the Switch is like... The Switch is definitely it was a unique thing, but now that there's stuff like Steam Decks,
Yeah.
other portable PC things. Like they've cracked the code effectively.
Yeah.
Nintendo was the only one really playing in the space for a number of years, and the only ones who were able to figure it out when there were other contenders.
Yeah, I think you're very right. I think if you're doing a third party, if you want Switch for third party, you're a person who is going to be in a car a lot, going to be on a train a lot, going to be wanting that portability, which then I could see. Like, if you're like, I want to play Skyrim, but I'm very rarely home. Okay, fine, grab a Switch. But, like, nowadays, even that is something that's kind of not necessary. You know what I mean? So I kind of see that. But that is it for Fan Traction. We're only 40 minutes into the show already. Jesus Christ.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
Jesus.
We're going to be back with our talking point. We decided a fun one. So it shouldn't be a too long one. And I don't have a lot of news, so that should be fast.
I have newsy things.
Oh, okay. We're going to do a fun one where we decided to pitch a game. Just have fun talking about what a game would look like for a franchise that's never had a game. And we also decided to put the caveat, Neil decided to put the caveat, that it had to be an 80s movie that didn't have a franchise going at the time, which I'm kind of really excited about because I had a hard time with this one. But we'll get to that in a second. We'll be right back with that.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello! Alright, this is our talking point. It's gonna be a fun one. Shit. Do me a favor, Neil. Say something.
Wow, we're doing this right now?
No. Just want to make sure. I realized I didn't remember ever seeing your bar, so I was very scared that all of a sudden I had been recording for 40 minutes and got no sound, but I've been getting sound, so we're good. Alright, we're gonna start over. Going in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, God.
All right, that brings us to our talking point, everybody. 80s movies that don't have franchises, that don't have games. How would we do them? How would we put them together? What would they look like? What would be interesting about them? What would suck about them? What we're going to do, we each have picked one. We don't know what each other's is. One person's going to start with theirs, Neil. And then once he's done pitching how he would put that game together, I'm going to kind of like pull his pitch apart. Not really like go after it, but like come up with the ways that I would do it. And then vice versa. So go ahead, Neil. What'd you do? What'd you decide to do?
Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, no. Okay. All right.
Oh, no. Why?
It's real close to what I picked, but go ahead.
Oh, no.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Beverly Hills Cop. Oh, God. Yeah, I feel like that one would be prime for something that could be... I would imagine it's something akin to a more comedy-focused Grand Theft Auto. So I feel like that there would get you a bit of the L.A. noir detective work to where you could actually, like, you know, go around, ask questions, find out what's going on. I think it would be a disservice to follow one of the movies, one of the movie storylines. I think it would have to be its own unique thing.
Okay.
But like a big open world detective-y sort of situation, you absolutely had to have Eddie Murphy in there playing Axel. There's no way that you could do it with anybody else. I don't feel like your own custom created character would work unless you were like, it was like a buddy cop thing and you were his partner. But I feel like that there is the detective thing is kind of an untapped market for the most part. Not that there's no games out there for it, but they all are like the very noir focused, like serious, gritty.
Yeah.
Find out what's going on. Like, no, we need like a Deadpool style fuck around jokes, you know, that sort of thing. I feel like that's something that would work very well.
Okay. So yours is really close to mine.
Oh God, what did you do?
We'll do it in a second.
We'll get it.
I would take that in a different way. I think here's the biggest problem I see with your idea, okay? Because I think it's a cool idea. My biggest problem is whenever they do those those like big third person like open world things, the character has all this like Foley work, like like they say something when they run into a car, they bump into somebody on the street, and I feel like Axel Foley's laugh would get real fucking old. Like,
Oh
you know,
God, yeah, you're right.
you'd be hearing it
You're
constantly because it'd be one of his Foley things. You'd almost get sick of the character, which is a good character, but like in that, you'd almost get sick of those repeated lines over and over again.
It's fine for the hour and a half runtime of a movie, but not 30 hours in.
Which is why I would have Telltale do it. I'd have Telltale do a Beverly Hills Cop, and I'd even have them kind of like stretch their legs a little bit and allow like multiple different endings to it, so you could still get that detective kind of story to it. Like really leverage the technology that we have nowadays, and instead of having it be like a very straightforward linear thing, like most of Telltale stuff, like have the moment to moment be linear, but have a lot of different branching paths. That ends up kind of creating your own narrative through it. I think that would be a really cool way to do that, and then you would have it nice and written so that Axel Foley is not pissing you off most of the time. That's what I do with that. I don't know if you agree with that, which is weird because I feel like I'm pitching your game and you're pitching my game right now, as far as like who we are as people.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think Eddie Murphy doing Eddie Murphy things for 30 hours.
Right.
It's not real good.
I also
longevity.
I don't want to do side quests with Eddie Murphy. Like I don't want Axel Foley to be like picking 99 flowers and having him make some weird fucking joke about every one of the flowers he picks up. You know, I feel that would be really fucking weird and upsetting to me. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely on that. I feel like it would be something though, because that's the thing is like we really don't have. I feel like Telltale would be a great way to narrow down the scope for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would make it more digestible.
Right.
So you could put the whole runtime for the whole thing at, let's say, 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours for a whole run.
You could have exactly. But you could have like 5 different paths through the game and a couple of different interchange events that would take you to a different path depending on where you were leaning, and each one could even potentially have a different bad guy at it, which would really create like kind of bring back the conversations that Telltale used to have in the beginning, like to the point where Telltale used to do that thing where they would be like, these are the percentage of choices that people made when faced with choices, which I always thought was cool. You could bring back that kind of coolness, but on a bigger, more interesting level. I don't know, just my thought on that one. I didn't mean to pull your thing apart, but like, God, him just doing that laugh every 10 seconds would be like, no.
Oh, no. Wait a second.
What? Do I have to pause?
I think, no. I think, I think there is a Beverly Hills Cop game.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. It's not a successful franchise in the...
Oh, no. The fact that it even fucking exists is where I'm coming from.
Because I'm definitely going to pitch one that had a game before. It's just, it's not a successful franchise that is out right now.
Oh my God. Yeah, there was a Beverly Hills Cop game.
Oh, I believe it.
Full on Eddie Murphy.
There it is. Yeah.
Oh, it came out in the 90s.
Oh, that had to be Nintendo or Genesis then. Super Nintendo, maybe. That was a platformer by... What was that company, Ocean, that always made all the platformers?
Wait. Hold on. There were 2? One was a Commodore 64, but Wikipedia is telling me there was a PlayStation 2 game also.
Oh, man. If that has actual recorded Eddie Murphy lines in it, that has got to be a trash fire.
I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anything here on that. Yeah, it does a redirect to a blank page on Wikipedia for that.
Okay.
What was yours?
Mine's kind of crazy. So I had a really hard time picking because when you said 80s movies, initially I got super excited because, as you well know from me trying to force you to watch them, I have a lot of 80s movies that I worship the ground they walk on. None so much as Big Trouble in Little China. So my initial thought was like, I've got to make a game. I got to pitch a game for Big Trouble in Little China. But I immediately hit a wall because I'm like, there's no way they can make a game that's as good as just watching that movie. Like, I can't conceive, because if you created a character, you're not Jack Burton, you know? And if you're Jack Burton, you don't really have the freedom. Like, what's that game look like in 2023? And I couldn't do it. I couldn't come up with a good game concept for it. So then I switched it up a little bit, and I went through some of my other favorites. I had a lot of, like, Hard Target was another one that I kind of thought about. It's a Van Damme movie that's absolutely awesome that I'm sure you haven't seen, but
I've heard of it.
It's
at least
great.
Heard of it.
I'll loan it to you. It's amazing. He punches a snake in the face. It's phenomenal. Oh, it's great. It's great. So I had a hard time with this one, and then I finally settled on one that I was really happy with, because I could have just done the easy one. I could have done a Die Hard. Die Hard has never gotten a really good game. A really good game for it, ever. But I didn't do a Die Hard. I came up with something else that fits the Zack motif while also bringing a franchise into our century and really leveraging gaming right now. And I decided to make a Lethal Weapon game. And here's what I'm going to make about here's the fun part about my Lethal Weapon game, okay? And this is why it's close to yours, because it is going to be a third person kind of run around the city shooter sort of thing. There's side quests, there's missions you do as a cop, you get involved in stuff. But here's the catch. There's a Riggs and there's a Murtaugh, okay? That Riggs and that Murtaugh is you and another friend. So, much like Jose Ferris's co-op games, you would get this game, you get a friend code, and you get to give that code to a friend. So you can go in with that in. Then you both get to create characters, right? From ground up, you get to create your characters. You can make yourself in the game. You can make something else. One of you's Riggs. One of you's Murtaugh. We already see that Riggs and Murtaugh kind of are an interchangeable character when they made the show Lethal Weapon, and they were like nothing like the fucking original Riggs and Murtaugh. So you have Riggs and Murtaugh are you and a friend, and you create your own Riggs and Murtaugh, but you play the game together through the city. You guys, it's a full co-op, third-person, open world, exploration, whole 9 yards. You solve crimes together, you fight bad guys, you come up with plots, you deal with plots. I think that would be fucking cool as hell. Like basically a massive multiplayer online, but with only 2 people. Like, that's it. It's just you and a friend, and everything else is NPC, and you do everything together, basically. You can only even play it together. You come in together, that's it. Like, one of you's Riggs, one of you's Murtaugh. I think that's fucking awesome. Even with the Riggs and Murtaugh name, they're not gender specific. One of the Riggs could be a lady. Play with a lady friend. You know what I mean? Like, 2 ladies, both are Riggs, both are Murtaugh. They're not gender specific names. They're last names, so it doesn't matter. So I think that would be really cool and really fun. I can think of no less than like 4 people, including you, that I would love to play this kind of game with. I think this would be just so much fun. And then the back and forth, the discourse, is you and your friend. Like, literally, like, what are you doing? Ah, shit. You know, like, has just been revoked. Like, I think that would be so much fun. I think you get the Lethal Weapon brand in there, but you also get just all the cool stuff that you could do in nowadays gaming, which is to create your own story, create the world, create everything. I would even love to add like a layer of procedural generation to it where the bad guys and the plots are procedurally generated for you. So you can always go in there with a friend and always play it. You know what I mean? You get your own narrative with it. What do you think about that?
Sprinkle in a little bit of Army of 2, like
yeah.
With the like with Taking the Heat.
Yeah.
Sprinkle a little bit of that in there too. I feel like that is like Army of Two was before its time
Yeah,
in
it
that
was.
co-op thing,
It
and
was.
now the next evolution has been really only Jose Ferris has
Yeah,
been doing it
Mm-hmm.
with these like co-op only
Mhm.
games with a narrative associated with it, but you can only play them side by side.
Yeah.
Why is it that there's nobody else doing anything with that?
I don't know.
Maybe because they're just scared that they have to give somebody a code to play a game for free. I don't know.
What's ridiculous is Jose Ferris is very successful. His games are very successful. They get nominated and they sell like hotcakes. It Takes Two was a huge success. A Way Out was a huge success. Even Brothers made a lot of money for them, which I know Brothers could be played solo. They weren't ready to fully commit to the co-op thing, but it was a better co-op experience. I think that like I don't know why anybody hasn't tapped it, and that's why when I was like trying to think of things, I was like, well, the buddy cop experience would be really cool, but I wouldn't want to play that alone. Like the best part about a buddy cop experience is playing it with your buddy, and this way you and your buddy are the buddy cops. Like that would be fucking awesome.
Being put in situations too that like you get like let's say like a procedurally, like even if it's procedurally generated, or like you get a fork in the road situation to where they say something to each other, the characters will say something to each other, and then you both get to decide what you do to either go along with the plan or go against the plan. And then from there adds to the chaos. You can't see what the other person is voting to do.
Oh,
and
that'd
then
be
it
awesome.
very well may have both of you guys split off on your own to do whatever, and like, well, shit, this didn't work out well.
Yeah.
Or you guys are on the same page and like wreck shop. I feel like that'd be fantastic.
You could even do like a perk system where like because Riggs was the crazy one, Murtaugh was the button down one, who was more precise. So you could do like a perk system where you create them from the ground up, but the Riggs character always gets these like crazy kind of berserker traits, and the Murtaugh character gets these like more button down precision traits. You know what I mean? So like you could even like play it and then switch at some point. I think there's so much you could do with that idea. I was really happy to come up with it while I was sitting on the porch today. And I just think, God, wouldn't that be fun? I would be first in line to buy that. I'd buy 4 copies so that I could play that with like all the people I knew. Like that would be amazing. That would be so much fun. And talk about the streaming / let's play potential for a game like that. I can't even begin to say it. And it doesn't even have to be that big. I know everybody, I'm on a Remnant 2 kick, but Remnant 2, I am over halfway through my second playthrough, and I've only gotten a boss that I've fought in before twice. That's how good the procedural generation is in that game. Like, I have had different storylines also to every world I've been in. It's so easy to do stuff like that nowadays and make them not the biggest, most gigantic, ridiculous thing. You know, the city doesn't even have to be that big. You know, it can be a relatively restricted city just as long as the plot lines procedurally generate kind of differently every time. It's got infinite replayability and it's not even that big. I think it would be fucking amazing. It's just me. Just me, though. Just me.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. I liked yours better than mine.
Well, it wasn't a contest. We were just having fun. I liked your additions to it, though. I didn't even think about the dialogue tree thing. That would be really cool. Like if, he's actually in-game dialogue to my character, but I can't see what Riggs is saying. I can only do what Murtaugh is saying. That'd be amazing. All right, well, we talked a long time on Fan Traction. You want to just switch over to the news?
For sure.
Since we're done. All right, everybody. We'll be right back with the news.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Brings us to our final segment, ladies and gentlemen, the news. We like to collect news stories that we want you guys to know about, we want to riff about, we want to tell each other about, and this is where we do it. Neil has collected 4, I have collected 2. We have decided I'm just going to get mine out of the way. They're relatively quick. They're relatively easy. First one, it's Remnant 2, of course, because I'm very into it right now. The biggest problem with Remnant 2 is crossplay. does not have crossplay. It's a huge issue. In actuality, original Remnant did not have crossplay either, and still to this day doesn't really have crossplay. It kind of feels like it has crossplay because when it went into Game Pass, they made it available on the Windows Store, which allowed anybody on Game Pass in a console to play it with the Windows people. So you only really have crossplay between Microsoft on the original Remnant, which it obviously hasn't been a priority for the company, but it should be. Crossplay nowadays is a big issue. People want to be able to play with their PC friends. I personally am on a PC, and most of the people I play with are on consoles, so I definitely want crossplay, especially on this one. It's one of my favorite games, and I don't have anybody who I know who I can play it with, but I know 4 people who are playing it right now. That being said, the creator, I think it was the creative director of Remnant 2, did an AMA and Ask Me Anything, and he was many times prodded on the crossplay. He said, it is something we're looking into. It is something we are actively trying to work on to fix. So, if they are to be believed, and so far Remnant 2 and Gunfire Games have given us no reason not to, we will at some point in the future get crossplay for Remnant 2. That being said, we have no idea when. There's no time frame on that, but they are actively working on it. There's actually a team at Gunfire trying to do this. So, we should see it.
That's good at least.
Yeah, we should see it at some point in the future, which is wonderful.
Having it retroactively is better than not having it.
I agree. I think that I think sometimes people underestimate the amount of work that goes into the code for crossplay, and you're talking about a double A studio that does not have the money or the manpower necessarily to deal with it. I'm not giving them a pass because I got in a mild little tiff with somebody about this, so I want them to understand I'm not giving them a pass. I do not think it is acceptable to not have crossplay. That being said, I think in this situation, it's not something that they've necessarily ignored. It's just not something they could pull off in the beginning. So hopefully we see it in the future, and it is good because I don't want to play all the way through it again. Nah, that's not true. I'll play all the way through it again if it comes to Game Pass. The other thing I'm worried about is I don't know if it's ever coming to Game Pass because it's produced by Epic this time around. They are not the best. They do not have the best relationship with Game Pass, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, especially because they're effectively direct competitors with the Game Store.
In a lot of ways, yeah. Next one. This weird thing came out recently that Avowed was actually originally being designed as a multiplayer game. A multiplayer, like, looter game. Instead of a narrative single-player story sort of game, and that they had to return to what they did, and they had to fight to get back to what they understood. So, I am gonna put my tinfoil hat on. What's going on there, Neil? I believe Microsoft wanted Avowed to be a multiplayer game. I think once they bought Bethesda, they did not want a Skyrim competitor from a company that's already good at competing with them. I think they wanted them to do multiplayer, and I think Obsidian had to fight to make this thing narrative. I have no evidence of this. I am talking out my ass, everybody. I just want you all to know that. But, again, before Microsoft purchases Obsidian, Obsidian is concerned with one thing, and that is narrative single-player experiences. With the exception of Grounded. They were working on Grounded, but I think we can all agree that Grounded is just as much fun solo as it is with 4 players. It's just got that co-op availability. It's not really intended to be a multiplayer thing, you know? After Microsoft, all of a sudden, one of their games is almost a multiplayer loot-driven thing. And I also want to point out, we've already heard the stories about Redfall, and the fact that Bethesda basically forced that team to make that game that they didn't want to make in the first place, and kind of were pushed into making it a looter shooter. So here we are. I think that this is another piece of evidence that Microsoft micromanages companies once they buy them. Once they own them, they step in, they micromanage. It's very annoying. And I am very hopeful for Avowed. I'm very hopeful it's good. I don't like what Obsidian said about the Larian thing. It makes me very nervous for all of their RPGs moving forward because they were the first people to jump on the, oh, don't expect games to be this good bandwagon, which bothers me because they're one of our favorite studios here. And will make me nervous from this day forth whenever they're about to release an RPG. That being said, I hope it's good. I hope it doesn't suck. And I'm very glad that they were able to at least make the game that they wanted to make.
So I'm actually kind of thinking along the lines of what you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that I'm leaning that way...
Come under the tinfoil hat. There's plenty of room under here.
We have had multiple conversations about, since Obsidian got bought, what it is that they're going to do, because Obsidian became that direct competitor for the Bethesda stuff. Does Bethesda retain everything that they have? Does Microsoft give one of the properties to Obsidian to see what they're going to do? Well, again, because they did Fallout New Vegas, didn't they?
Yep.
Like that's the thing. Like, they already have experience with some of the stuff in like past and, you know, competition. So I absolutely could see them trying to pull some shit like that. And after seeing what ended up happening with Redfall, the anuses were collectively clenched.
Yeah, I think so. Alrighty. That's it for mine. It's down to you, sir.
So mine really feed off of two separate main things.
Okay.
So the first two is going to be all about Evo and Street Fighter.
Okay.
Evo just wrapped up, and
I did see a bunch of interesting information from that.
Oh, one of the things we'll get to.
Okay.
So Evo did just wrap up, but I don't know if you saw this. There was something very interesting going on with the PS5 consoles at the event. They were running so frequently and they got so hot that they actually melted the USB hubs in the console and inside of people's fight sticks.
Whoa.
Like, people went to unplug their fight sticks and ripped out the USB port from the console because it got so hot they melted.
Holy shit. Talk about bad news for Sony. Jesus Christ. Because even if you're not going to be, like, the average person is never going to run a PS5 that much, but, like...
The optics alone.
The optics, yeah. Anybody going to buy it is like, oh, the USB hubs melt. That's going to be the first thing they think. Ooh, that's bad news.
So, yeah, and I mean, I'm sure people are at least somewhat aware of the cost of those fight sticks.
Oh, they're very expensive.
They're not cheap. Not in the slightest. They're almost, in some cases, the same cost as a whole console. So, yeah. And continuing with things that piss people off that should be cool. They're pissed. People are pissed about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle skins for Street Fighter 6. So
why are they pissed? I'm interested to hear this because I definitely saw the TMNT.
So to buy them and get the currency properly,
God damn it. Here we go.
Each one costs $15 individually.
That's insane.
It is possible to get them all for $50, but requires a bunch of math flimflammery by buying specific larger and smaller amounts so you don't overbuy in the premium currency. On top of that, if you decide to get the extra poses and stickers and digital stickers and stuff, your grand total is going to bring you to $100 for all of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles DLC content.
That's shameful. That's above shameful. I mean, we've already touched on this in the fan interaction. This is the kind of thing, like, especially considering that, like, Street Fighter 6 is if you just play Street Fighter 6, if you just pick up and play Street Fighter 6, it's a good game. It's a good fighting game. Like, everybody says so, and I don't see any reason to disagree with them. I've seen people play it. I'm not a 2D fighting guy. We've talked about this, but it looks really interesting. It's one that I've thought about picking up just for the character creation and stuff. And then you have all that brought down by this shit. You know what I mean? You're not even buying a turtle character. It's not even a fighter. It's a skin.
Just a skin.
For already pre-made characters. It's absolutely insane that they are charging that much money. Just fucking ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing else to be said about that. That's
No.
absolutely... This is what I'm talking about with AAAs. Like, even when they're good, they're bad. You know?
So, Nintendo is, lack of a better term, Nintendoing.
Okay.
So, between July 10th and August 4th, Nintendo filed over 30 patents on mechanics from Tears of the Kingdom. Everything from the hand ability all the way to things so benign as a character standing on a platform that is moving and not being controlled. I get it, Nintendo, that Tears of the Kingdom is like your thing now, and you made a mistake with Breath of the Wild last time around, because everyone and their mother, of course, made, clones on clones on clones of Breath of the Wild. It basically kind of spawned its own little subgenre in the open world space. But I feel like they're overcompensating this time around and copywriting whole mechanics, because we've talked about this before with like the Nemesis system. The Nemesis system is locked behind Warner Brothers ownership.
Well, and
They
that's
go
not copywriting.
nowhere.
I want to make it very clear. That's
Well,
not
yeah,
copywriting.
yeah.
It's patent, which is way
Yeah.
worse than copywriting. Way
Well,
worse.
I mean,
it's much
yeah.
harder to get through patent shit than it is copywriting. I hate this. I hate this. You're so greedy that you stifle the creativity of the games market as a whole when you do stuff like this. The idea that the Nemesis system wouldn't be awesome in any game, it does not help you in any way, especially since you're never going to use these things again. That's the thing that bothers me the most, is since Warner Brothers has patented the Nemesis system, how many games have come out? And this has been, and that was like, what, 10 years ago? No, it was
Yep.
like 5 years ago, something like that they patented it. How many games have come out with the Nemesis system from Warner Brothers?
Yeah,
It's a big old fat goose egg. Big old fat goose egg.
And what
Same
drives me, well, sorry to
No,
to
you're
just
fine. Go
interrupt
ahead.
on
I
this.
interrupt you all the time. You interrupt me once
And what
twice.
drives me crazy about it too is it's Warner Brothers that owns that, and they have had other shit that's prime for it.
Oh, yeah.
Hogwarts Legacy
Yeah.
have been
Oh yeah.
prime
Oh yeah.
for it. Have a rival student
Oh yeah.
that just or a rival dark wizard, like
Yeah.
let that be a thing, but they
Yeah.
won't even let it be anywhere else. It's just they're like dragons
Yep.
hoarding shit.
Yeah, they just lock it down and let it die in obscurity. It's the same thing. What I was gonna finish saying is, do you see Nintendo putting these exact mechanics in any other game? No. I mean, even Breath of the Wild compared to Tears of the Kingdom, the abilities from Breath of the Wild didn't make it into Tears of the Kingdom. The Tears of the Kingdom, all the abilities are new. Like, that's the whole point. So, like, the next Zelda isn't going to have the hand thing again. It's not going to have that. So you just end up with this fucking thing that nobody else can touch. And I want to say this again. You locking something, like unlocking something and letting other people play with it, does not mean you don't get sales. It doesn't mean you don't get it, because anybody who plays that other game is free advertising for your game. Like, freeing up those mechanics doesn't hurt your company. It helps the market. It helps the creativity of the space. And that, I think that's one of the biggest problems I have with the companies and the CEOs, is a lot of the times what they're doing Like, they don't realize that what they do, like, they just think immediately money equals money, and that's all. That's all we're ever looking at. But they don't realize that, like, locking down something in the industry hurts the industry. The industry then reduces, and you make less money anyway. So, like, if you really want to make a lot of money, you have to allow other games to create based on those systems. Like, you have to allow them to innovate in that space because it makes the space as a whole bigger. You know, instead, you lock these things down, less people buy games. If less people buy games, they don't buy yours, you know? It's fucking stupid. It's fucking stupid.
And then the last thing that is Nintendo related, it's a little short, sweet one, but it kind of piggybacks off what we were talking about last week. According to the tech website Tom's Guide, the Switch successor has been rumored by, it only said multiple sources, to be at a $399 price point.
Ooh.
So I don't know. I think that would, if that is the case, I think the $399 is a sweet spot for something that is next gen enough to justify a new iteration of it, but not enough to act like, hey, I want to hang with the big dogs.
Yeah.
You know, because that's just not Nintendo at this point.
You know, we talked about this last week. I think Nintendo's in a tough spot. I think $400 is too expensive. I don't think it's necessarily too expensive. Like, given the logic that you said, I think your logic is not flawed, with the exception of the fact that I think that, like, a $400 system is not gonna get them sales. You know what I mean? It's not going to influence people to impulse buy it because it's a little bit too pricey for that. And I don't think that their hardware is going to be enough to make them think, oh, this is a viable contender for the Steam Deck. I think at the $400 price point, at the $399 price point, it has to be a viable contender for the Steam Deck. I don't mean it has to beat the Steam Deck, okay? I don't mean it has to, like, work better than the Steam Deck, but it has to be in that ballpark. It has to, you have to look at it and be able to say, this is a poor man's Steam Deck, at the very least, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think you can say that. I don't think that they're going to make something that you can say that about, especially since $400, if I'm not mistaken, is more expensive than the cheapest Steam Deck. I'm pretty sure the cheapest Steam Deck is $300, right?
I believe so. And now they're actually selling refurbished Steam Decks
for even less. I saw that.
20% off, yes.
20% off. So now you're releasing a new system that's $400. That's not even the cheapest, right? It's more expensive than your cheapest competitor who has a more powerful system than your current hardware. So your $400 system, where does that land? Because unless it beats the pants off the Steam Deck, why isn't somebody just buying a Steam Deck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, the grandmothers and the parents and the party gamers who purchase the Steam Deck for the fun, Wiimote games, they've got what they want. They're going to continue to play those games for years to come, and they're not going to need to buy your new system,
Yeah, I think the only thing that Nintendo really has for it in the competition between, the Switch 2 and a Steam Deck is really just the first-party exclusives. Yeah. Which, let's be real, that's what Nintendo has had.
Yeah.
It's enough to make me. It's enough to make me, go out and buy a Switch. So
they've had the gimmick though. Like if you look at the Wii, the original Wii had the gimmick. So even people who didn't even understand what Zelda was went out and got a Wii because they wanted to do the Wii Golf, right? And then the Wii U was announced, right? And the Wii U was a shitty system, quality-wise. I'm not saying it wasn't, but the Wii U didn't bring any new gimmick to the table because there's no new gimmick to bring to the table. All it had was that software, and it failed. It didn't do good. Now you have the Switch, which brought the gimmick back. So everybody went out and they got it for the gimmick, as well as the software. I'm not saying they didn't. Software tried and tested, but it doesn't keep them afloat, or it would have kept the Wii U afloat. I mean, Wii U is objectively shittier as far as like what it was, but still, it didn't keep it afloat, and it had all the first party, the Mario and the Zeldas. So we're at this position now where everybody who bought the system, the Switch for the gimmick, has bought it. So what are you gonna offer them with the next system that makes them go, yeah, I want to spend another $400? Because if you're not talking to them, then you need to talk to the other people who are the hardcore gamers, and you're already saying to them that you're more expensive than the Steam Deck, which is your leading competitor, and can you be more competitive technologically than them? And I don't know that they can. And that's the trick, you know? So I don't know. Right. I feel like the Switch 2 is primed to fucking fail. But I could be very mistaken. It's just I see that loop for Nintendo. When they do these gimmick systems, it's like those gimmick people very rarely need to buy the system, you know? And when you catch them, you ride that wave. But they're not buying the next system, you know?
I think it's going to come down, truthfully, to when they officially show us what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because if it is just more Nintendo Switch, I mean, I'll be a little concerned.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be, hollering from the rooftops like, oh, it's the Wii U all over again. But
right.
Yeah,
I probably will. That's what I do. I holler from rooftops.
Nintendo's thing has always been just a gimmick of some sort, like you'd mentioned. It's just a matter of sometimes it's been crazier than others.
Yeah. I don't disagree with any of that. I think that like we do really need to see what this system is capable of and what it does. It's just all we have to go off is their track record, and
right.
their track record on the hardware is not great. It's not great at all, especially the features part of the hardware. We talked about it last time. What the Switch could do at launch was insulting. And if it wasn't the only handheld on the market, do we think it would have done good? If the Steam Deck had already released and it was already in the ether, would the Switch have won? I don't know. I mean, it probably would have done good because of the gimmicky stuff, but it definitely didn't have anything that the Steam Deck had. So we've really got to see what they're going to bring to the table, because they're not setting a price point that says this is an impulse buy. They're setting a price point that says we're going to be technologically competitive with the other things. But what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, can they actually do that? Because their track record is not great on that front,
Yeah. Yeah, ever since the Virtual Boy, they always have every so many years.
Just flub something. All right, well, that was your last one?
Yes.
Well, we kept it under an hour and a half. So, I mean,
impressive.
unless we add my eye doctor story, which was probably 20 minutes. So, we'll be right back with the plugs, guys.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Brings us to the end of the show. This brings
doing great.
Yeah, I'm not
so good.
That brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. Neil, anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, we're still doing that thar Redfall down.
Mm-hmm.
And it is going. Apparently, from what we understand now, we're almost at the halfway point, which is going to be very interesting to see what happens beyond that. Halfway. You're almost done.
Yeah.
So here's a question. If there's an episode that comes out and doesn't get a single view, are you just going to call it right then and there?
I don't know. I kind of agree to do the show with you guys. I kind of want to see it through to its end at this point. I don't know that I want to leave it undone. Like, I've come this far is kind of the feeling that I'm in right now. I will say it's very hard to play that game when you're playing a game like right now. I'm playing Remnant 2. Everybody knows that because I keep talking about it, but Remnant 2 is a looter shooter, which is what Redfall is, and basically putting them side by side, it makes it even harder to play Redfall, because you just like, you go into these, I come from these like really interesting boss fights, and really interesting loot and secrets into fucking Redfall, which is just iframes and bullet stuffing. It's such bullshit gameplay. And then you add in these storylines that they have that just make me mad on a cellular level. Like, it's like a double insult, right? Like, if I'm playing a game where there's just a really yucky storyline in it, you know? And just anybody out there who's played Redfall, I'm going to spoil something for you. If it just is. There's like this weird grooming undertow to the first half of the storyline where there is just an old shitty doctor taking advantage of a young girl, and that shit makes me viscerally mad in the core of me. But like, if it was in a game that's trying to say something about it or trying to like do something, I could be like, okay, I see what you're trying to do. I understand. You know what I mean? This is a quality gaming experience. I'm getting something from it. It really feels like this is a shitty game, and then they put a really controversial story in it so that just to try and like boost its street cred, you know what I mean? And it just makes me even madder that not only do I have to deal with this bullshit, plus all the characters are fucking Looney Tunes. They're fucking cartoon characters. So like them dealing with this is like making quips the whole time. I'm like, this is insensitive. In addition to be shitty, it's insensitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I feel like I gotta go through it. I feel like I gotta get through it. Plus, you guys enjoy playing it. I have dragged both of you into many gaming experiences, so I will follow you through this one.
Through the quite literal depths of hell.
Other than that, a few things I would like to plug. As usual, we are still TTRPGing it up on Astral Drive every other Wednesday. Really enjoying that. Come check that out. And once a month we do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles actual play, which might be my favorite game that I've ever played. It's so much fun. Please come check it out. It is just 2 hours of just unadulterated, 3 dudes having unadulterated fun. That sounded weirdly pornographic, but it's not. It's just role-playing games. It's very fun. On the gaming front, OMGM is finally coming to the end of its 2nd season, which we're really excited about because we have a lot of surprises in store for Season 3, so please check that out. That is the game where myself and Grandpa Gamer book against each other in GM mode on 2K23. Prelude to Divorce is still going strong with my wife, where I forced her to play video games. And yeah, I think that about covers it. I am going to be starting to do some gaming streaming here because my kid is going back to school. So that will also be exciting. So please look out for that. And then one final plug for our Buildmaster General. Phil Billy has been playing through Baldur's Gate 3 on stream. He's up to like stream 7 or 8 now. And yeah, I'm trying to keep up. He plays a lot. And they're big streams, but I'm watching them. I'm moving through them slow, and it's a lot of fun to watch him play it. So check that out whenever that goes live. If you don't catch it in the live, we've got a playlist over on the channel. Check that out there. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to go to sleep. You guys can also contact us on Facebook at OManGamingDH, on Twitter at OManGaming9. You can join our Discord. Links in the description below. Influence us in all of our shows from there. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as long as you keep watching and listening, we will keep making them. See you guys next time. I did almost find out I was dying on Friday, though.
The fuck? So wait, you almost found out that you were dying,
yes.
Or you found out that you were almost dying?
No, I found out.
Those are two different things.
Well, I'll tell you the story, and then you can tell me what that is. So,
okay.
Like, when I went to the doctor the first time, the eye doctor, he said, I need a prescription, I have astigmatism, but he also said there was some swelling around the optic nerve, so he wanted me to get checked out by a neuro-optometrist. So I'm like, okay, cool, sounds good. Thinking it was just a routine examination. That's the way he said it. That's the way he presented it to me. So I go into the neuro-optometrist on Friday. They're a little bit behind, so 11 was my appointment. They don't get me in until like 20 minutes late, but they had a sign up that said they were going to be late, so whatever, I play games on my phone. Yeah. Girl comes out, takes me back, does 6 tests, blinky light test, little house test, another fucking test that I gotta look at, Another test where I got to look at another thing. A little x-ray of my eye, then a little red light test. Do all these tests on me, right? One with a fucking eye patch. She takes me back out, sits me down, says, "Doctor, will see you in a second." I'm like, all right, okay, cool. Wasn't expecting this. Somebody else comes out, not the doctor. Another dude goes, "Hey, come on back." He does more tests to me. These tests are annoying. The first one is a poof test. And I want to say this right now, because if this makes it onto the air, I want everybody to understand that I have not seen an eye doctor since I was 15 years old. I have never had a poof test, and I have never had my eyes dilated ever in my entire life. It's never happened. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he does the poof test, which I felt like I was being pranked. I felt like for anybody out there who's never had the poof test, you look into this thing and they say, "Look at this red target," and then they shoot fucking hot air into your fucking eyeball. It scares shit out of me. I jumped. I'm like, all right, that's fine. It's part of the test. He does 4 more tests. Like, look through this, read this line. Then he's like, "We're going to dilate your eyes." I'm like, okay. He's like, "You'll still be okay to drive." I'm like, oh okay. That makes me very nervous. Yeah, I know. I was like, that makes me very nervous that you had felt the need to say that. He drops 3 drops into each of my eyes, okay? I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel bad. All of a sudden, my eyes swell. I can't see anything. They become amazingly blurry. I can't read at all, like nothing. I'm just seeing shapes. My eyes hurt. It was terrible. So he finishes his test finally. He takes me into another room, sits me there, says the doctor's coming in. So, and this all of this has taken like an hour. Mm-hmm. Like it's like 12:30 at this point. I'm like, Jesus Christ. So I call my wife and I'm like, I'm so sorry, because she had to have Stella up at work. And I thought I was going to be there for like an hour tops. I'm already there for an hour. I haven't even seen the doctor. So I call her. She's like, "What's going on?" I was like, "They did all these fucking crazy ass tests to me, poof test, dilation." She's like, "Oh shit, dilation. Do you need me to drive?" And I was like, "I don't think so, but shit's getting kind of bad. But they said I'm clear to drive." And she's like, "Okay, all right, well, call if you need me." Yeah, no. The answer is definitely no.
No.
So then the doctor comes in, right? And then the doctor goes, "Well, why are you here?" And I'm like, oh well, I got referred something about a nerve in my eye that my doctor didn't like the way it looked, so he sent me to you guys. And he's like, "Well, how you doing today?" And I was like, "Well, honestly, you've all been very nice, but I'm not doing that great right now. I never had the poof test or the eye dilation." He's like, "Oh, well, those are rough." So very matter-of-factly, he sits down in front of me. He looks in my eyes. He's done looking in my eyes. He then goes, "All right." And this dude, no joke whatsoever, like very, like stone-faced, just looks at me and goes, "All right, we are going to send you over. We have a side clinic right next to us. We're going to send you over to have your eyes ultrasound." I'm like, "Oh, okay, another test." And he's like, "You have swelling around your optic nerve." And I was like, "Oh, all right." And he's like, "What this means is one of 2 things. The first thing is you have some calcium deposits there, which is a relatively throwaway thing. Some people have it, and it doesn't affect them. The other thing is your optic nerve is connected to your brain, so it is swelling because you have some sort of brain swelling issue." That's what he says to me.
Very casually.
So now, not even really able to see his face, I'm just like, "Oh." And I laugh, I chuckle, I go, "Ha ha, that sounds serious." And he goes, "It can be very serious." So I stop laughing, and I'm staring at him, and I'm like, "Should I be worried?" And he was like, "Well, if it's the latter, yes, you should be very worried."
What the fuck?
I'm like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "All right." And he's like, and he had an assistant in there. And he's like, "All right, so I'm going to leave. The assistant's going to get somebody to come in to get you." Now I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I came in for a routine event. They're about to tell me I have a fucking aneurysm. What is happening? So, like, my world is crumbling out from under me. And so I just, like, shrug over. And this is what the assistant comes over and goes to me. She's trying to be nice, and I understand. But she goes, "Are you okay?" And I was like, I gotta be honest, I'm not doing so hot. I came in here for a routine exam. You guys sprayed air in my mouth, in my eyes. You dilated them so I can't see anything, and then you told me my brain might be about to explode, so it's been a little bit of a roller coaster. Do you know what she says to me? And if in the off chance this woman for some reason ends up listening to this podcast, you were very nice. Don't ever say this to anybody in my situation. This is what she says. She kind of stands up, looks a little awkward for a second, and then says, well, I'm going to leave you with that. And then walks out and shuts the door. I'm just sitting there like, what's the suicide rate of your patients? Jesus Christ. Like, I was waiting for her to be like, the noose on the wall is if you want to take the easy way out. Like, I was like, what is that? So I'm sitting there. I'm totally stressed. Now I've just lost, okay, now I'm going to have, like, this went from a routine appointment to a test that's going to decide whether I might be dying or not. Like, I'm like, good God. I call Melissa. Melissa gets worried, but I needed somebody to be with me in the worry. I felt so alone at this point. Like, I'm just, like, in a room by myself, and the nurse basically told me to unalive myself. Like, I was so alone. So I call my wife. She's like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Do you need me to come get you? I was like, they told me I'm clear to drive. Great. So finally the ultrasound person comes, leads me back there. Have you ever had your eyes ultrasounded?
No,
it is honestly, a very strange experience to add to this.
The only thing that I can think of that they would do, to my knowledge of an ultrasound, is smear jelly on your eyelids and have you close your eyes, and they just mush a device on them.
Nailed it in one, my friend. They're like, close your eyes. We're gonna smear jelly on it. We're gonna put the device up to your eyes. We're gonna take pictures with it. I was like, all right. So I'm already blind, but now I can't see colors. They're like, don't open your eyes. This will burn. Like, do not open your eyes. I was like, okay. So then she's just moving my head around, and I started to get a weird feeling like I was in some sort of like amateur porn like setup here, because I can't see anything, and then there's moving my head around, and then a spherical device is coming at me. And I'm like, oh no! Oh no! But the thing comes up to my eye. She pushes on it real hard. It does hurt, but she was being nice. So then she finishes taking these pictures, right? She's like, here's some Kleenex, wipe your eyes off. I wipe my eyes off. I'm like, so what's the word? And she's like, can you have the doctor come in here? Okay, nobody's going to answer me. Doctor comes in there, okay? They decide to have the full breakdown conversation in front of me. Just right in front of me. I can't see. My eyes are watering. I'm sitting right behind them. This is what happens. The doctor comes in. He looks at the x-ray and he goes, oh, look at that. Well, that's something. Then the other doctor goes, yes, I was thinking the same thing. However, look at this part. And he's like, oh, that is a little concerning. And I'm just like, sitting there. This goes back and forth for a couple more sentences. And finally, I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. But, oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm missing an important fact. He comes in, he looks at it, he goes, look at this right here. This looks like druising. That's what he says. Then the other woman comes over and goes, yes, I agree with that, but look at this right here. And then he goes, oh, this is kind of concerning, but this kind of is indicative of druising. And she's like, I don't disagree with you. This is definitely looking like druising, but this part right here, to which then I interrupt and I go, hey, somebody's going to have to tell the blind guy what druising is, and they're going to have to tell him right now. And the doctor turns around and he goes, I'm very sorry. Druising is the calcium thing. That's the thing that it looks like your eyes have. And I was like, okay, so the not so bad thing. And he was like, no. And I was like, why is it not so bad? He's like, it's a mitochondrial genetic thing. Some people have it, some people don't. It is in no way, shape, or form bad. It's just you get these calcium deposit, makes your optic nerve swell a little bit. You live your whole life completely happy with them. It's never going to hurt you. Great. He's like, however, and I'm like, shit. And he goes, there is a little shadow here that makes us a little nervous. We both examined your eyes. We both think that it looks like the swelling looks hard and calcified, which would be indicative of druising. However, because of this little shadow here, we can only be 90% sure that it's druising. To which I say, okay, so what's the option? He goes, MRI. We do a full workup on your head. We send you to an MRI. Anybody out there who might not be American, or if you are from the States and you've hadn't had to have an MRI, it's a fucking nightmare. They're extremely expensive. Most insurances won't cover them. Sometimes they will. They try and get out of them every chance they get. They're incredibly expensive. Plus, there's only
to the tune of $5,000.
Yes.
No, from experience.
Yes. Plus, there's only so many MRI machines in fucking Ohio. So getting scheduling into that, it's like 3 or 4 months out. So I'm like, look, I'd rather avoid an MRI if I can do it. But, like, how sure are you? He's like, well, here's what we're going to do. We'll schedule you to do all of this again in 30 days. At least I know it's coming this time. But all of this again in 30 days. And if it looks different, we'll know that something else is going on. We'll do the MRI. We'll get the full workup. If it's the exact same result, it's definitely druising. We can write it off as the calcium deposit. Great. So, to extend this story... Then they let me go. I can't see a fucking thing, and then I walk out into the bright summer day, and I literally, out loud, in front of children, because I could not stop myself, yelled, "Holy fucking shit!" Then I stumbled through a busy parking lot to my car. Got into my car, eyes are watering, face is burning, got the keys in, called Melissa, told her it was all right, looked like it was a calcium, told her that we were going to do this again in 30 days. She was like, do you need me to pick you up? I'm like, look, it's not going to do me any good. I can't leave this fucking car in a parking lot in Akron overnight. Like, and how would we come get it tomorrow? Like, it doesn't make sense to do that. I'm going to try and get it home. I don't want to pick up Stella. Can you bring Stella home once I get home? Sure, no problem. Great. Then, my friend, what follows that is the most harrowing driving experience of my entire goddamn life. Right off the bat, I made a bad left turn because I couldn't see what was going on. I almost got in an accident. Pulled off into a parking lot, gave myself a breather, tried again. But my trip home is around Talmadge Circle.
Oh, no.
And I can't read anything.
God.
And I don't go around the circle enough to have it ingrained in my head which exit is the one I need to take. So I missed my exit. I took the wrong one. I realized I took the wrong one about a mile up. I'm like, okay, I know where I am, though. Guess what? Howe Road now has a circle. So I end up going around Howe Road's circle.
Yeah, I know Howe has a, yeah.
Guess what happens? I miss my exit. I end up in Monroe Falls. Like, overshooting
God.
Kent by like 2 cities.
My God.
Dude, it was a nightmare. It took me an hour and a half to get home. I had to break every 15 minutes to just like close my eyes, wipe the water out of my eyes, get going again. It was a fucking nightmare. I got home. I texted Melissa. I was like, I'm home. Bring her home whenever. I am going to smoke and I am going to lay down because every part of my face hurts right now. Yeah, that was my Friday. It was a very harrowing experience. Fuck that shit. I told Melissa, I was like, you're driving me next time. I'm not doing it.
Oh, yeah. So definitely gonna go with the first one. Almost found out that you were dying.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, no, I actually kind of have a similar situation to that. It's not as long of a tale.
Probably good if we want to add this as a bonus.
It was about 2 years ago at this point. Maybe been about 3 actually. My mom has always had like a heart thing, and she had to get open heart surgery to get like a valve replacement.
Oh, that's tough.
So yeah, it was a thing. Like we all met up, like we stayed the night before at her house and got up. It was something like 5 a.m. or something, and went to the Cleveland Clinic. They started the surgery they said was going to take, it was something like 8 hours. They started late, a whole bunch of everything, but we had basically the whole family was at Cleveland Clinic the whole day. And eventually at one point, this motherfucker looking like Doc fucking Brown walks up to us and goes, "Oh, are you the DeWitt family?" And we were like, yeah, and we're all just like kind of standing there. So we're like, okay, we're gonna find out what's going on. He said, you guys should probably sit down.
Oh no.
No, you can't lead with that. And of course, we're all just like, no, actually, I don't think we're gonna sit down. I think we're gonna stand, and you're gonna fucking tell us what the fuck's going on. And the guy was just like, oh yeah, no, it's okay. We had to. I guess he used very legally, and not legalese, but like medical terms. He's like, we had to abandon the initial procedure and adjust our trajectory of what it was in our time frame. And I'm like, bro, is she fine? Yes, no. Like, you cannot walk up to somebody in a hospital, especially for something like that, and just lead with, you should probably take a seat.
Yeah. You ever seen Arrested Development?
No.
Oh, there's a doctor in that shows up every once in a while, and always, like, he'll be like, I'm sorry, he's not going to make it. And then everybody will go, oh! And then he'll go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mislead you. To lunch. He's not going to make it to lunch. He's fine. He's on his way. Like, that's how they do it. Like,
yeah.
That's who you got. You got that doctor.